Welcome to episode 44 of Cyclops is Waiting for Me, an X-Men the Animated Series weekly recap podcast. I'm JC, and I'm going to fight Rod.
Okay. This is definitely not the second time we're doing this intro. And I'm Rod. I just put out an album. Let's see if this joke works the same way a second time. You might not like it because I didn't make it for you, but you can check it out on Spotify and all the things. But it's the first one I've done in 10 years, and I'm proud of it, even if you're not. So
I'm not clapping for you this time.
A Handsome Nostalgia.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyway.
Get that plug.
And we're happy to introduce today's guest, Joe from the Joe on Joe podcast. Joe, why is someone from a G.I. Joe podcast on an X-Men the Animated Series podcast as a guest?
Because I decided that every single name of an X-Man could easily substitute as a name for a G.I. Joe vehicle.
Are we specifying X-Men or any character within the show?
Any character within the Marvel Universe. Most X-Men characters easily could be G.I. Joe vehicles.
I will challenge that.
There is the Wolverine.
I will challenge that with a Morlock.
Well, Mr. Sinister, I guess, would be tough.
You could still call it Sinister.
Sure,
so,
that's true.
I will challenge that with, from the Morlocks, Tommy.
Well, that's just his name. That's not his code name. I'll put a caveat there. Code names.
We don't know.
Like Jean Grey.
But Tommy's
would be
Tommy's a woman.
Well, maybe. Yo, Joe, I'm gonna jump in the Jean Grey and take on that his tank. You know, like that's I am from the Joe and Joe podcast, and I love comics. I love X-Men. I've been into X-Men since I was about 12 years old. I'm a spry 47 now, so it's been a while.
You don't look good.
Yeah. Hey, thanks.
Stop kissing ass because you fucked up the recording
session, this
Rod.
Conversation later. But no, I love X-Men. So when I do my G.I. Joe podcast, so when JC asked me to be a guest on the show, I was like, absolutely. I got a huge X-Men collection. I from issue 95 to current. Almost literally, because Giant Size came out the month I was born in 75. Mm-hmm. And so I literally have my lifetime worth of X-Men.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So you have more in just your X-Men collection than Rod has read comic books in totality of his life.
I was just thinking about that, yeah.
Probably easily. Yeah, easily.
The funny thing about G.I. Joes, though, a few years ago, I watched the G.I. Joe episode of Toys That Made Us.
Yeah, it's great.
And I had forgotten how nostalgic I was for that.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
Did you cry?
Probably.
Yeah.
G.I. Joe was a special thing, man. Yeah. I was born in 75, so Star Wars I was a little too young to really latch onto it. Mm-hmm. I loved it, and I loved Star Wars. But when G.I. Joe hit, I was like 8 years old.
Okay.
And that's that 8 to 10 is like when you form that like bond of like, that's the thing I'm going to like forever.
Yeah.
You know, and if you ever look at like Google pictures of G.I. Joe at Toys R Us and in the stores at the time, wall to wall. Well, I mean, it'll never be like that again.
No.
That's what brings me to the next thing is after that episode, I was like, oh, I'm nostalgic. You know what I'm going to spend $5 or $10 and go get a G.I. Joe. And I went out the store and I realized they don't sell them anymore.
Yeah, well, they do. They've made
Well, they come out in special runs.
Right. It's not like it used to be. Yeah.
My last time I was in a toy store, I was like 12 or 13.
Right.
And so I remember when you were talking about the wall to wall.
Totally.
And
it's really not the same. It's aimed more at a adult collector market. You know, they're doing these classified figures, which look great, you know, and as an adult collector, hey, awesome. But it's tough.
I love that. For a holiday once, I bought Joe a G.I. Joe, and Amazon it got so messed up in the packaging that it was literally open. Not like destroyed, but like the packaging was just opened at that point. So Joe's like, well, now I have it. Now I have an open Baroness.
Yeah. She's great.
That's so funny you say that too, because what brought me into G.I. Joe, besides a little bit of the cartoon, was when they started doing like the Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat action figures.
Yeah.
And so
those are pretty collectible.
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, I was like, you know what? I remember having the Chun-Li one, and I really like this. Mm-hmm. Like for a Christmas gift myself, I'm going to.
You just like those thighs,
right? Yeah, and the automatic kick. I was like, I'm just going to splurge at $20 or whatever, and just get one to put like on my shelf or whatever. Yeah. And I ordered it in the package because that was the only one left, and Amazon delivered it.
It was
smashed, so the blister
no longer in the package.
It was just busted open, and I was like, did they do this on purpose?
It's wild. They recently did a really cool mashup of the Megatron Transformer with a Cobra Hiss tank. Oh, wow. And it's the very first time it's an actual transforming G.I. Joe vehicle. Oh, wow. They've done mashup sets before, but the vehicle's never technically transformed.
Mm-hmm. Right.
This is a really good looking Hiss tank that transforms into Megatron. It's great. Everyone who ordered on Amazon got it shipped with a label on the box, not on the shipping box, on the Megatron box. Oh, no. I saw it all over the internet. Happened to my friend Matt. It was shocking how Amazon would think that that's an acceptable. It was a larger box. Don't get me wrong, but I've never seen it done with anything else.
I have. There was something else I ordered. It was like a Funko, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And it had a big sticker underneath it. And granted, luckily it was one that like wasn't going to be a valuable one. But I was like, if I was like,
it's insane.
Yeah, it's like you're literally doing adult collectors items. This isn't a toy for a kid that's going to get ripped up. This is adult collectors, and we keep shit in boxes.
Yeah, and even if they don't know what if they don't know the niche of the adult collector, which I agree with you 100% there, it was a $90 product.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm ordering bath salts, I'm going to eat your face.
Yeah.
Like bath bubbles that are $90, it better come in a box, you know? Like it's wild. It was wild. So
meanwhile, I order a single collar for my cat, and it comes in like a 16-inch box with 3 pounds of paper.
Yep.
Yeah, not even joking.
Totally.
And it's a tiny cat.
Totally. Yeah. So G.I. Joe on Joe is the podcast, and you can find it pretty much on every podcast catcher. It's a watch along. I've covered all of the episodes of the show, and then we're now working our way through the comic book. We go page by page, panel by panel, with a real historian's eye to comics. I would talk about like other comics that were on the shelf during the month that issue came out and things like that, which my listeners really, really dig. It kind of gives a setting for what was going on at the time. I'm near the end of the run as we record this, and it's like 1994.
Wow.
So all of the other comics that were on the shelves were very angsty. Lots of extreme faces, lots of open jaws, you know. So it's a real dark time for comics.
And just real quick, in case we lost it from the original intro, which we might have to scrap, what made you pick this episode to join us?
So I love Nightcrawler. One of my first interactions with the X-Men, I didn't know who they were, was I read issue 139 and 140 of X-Men. I borrowed it from my cousin. And in it was Nightcrawler and Wolverine go on a vacation to Canada to get over Wolverine's angst about Jean Grey dying 2 issues earlier. And they encounter a couple members of Alpha Flight, and they fight the Wendigo. And it was great because it's this emotional bonding trip with Wolverine and Nightcrawler and their best buddies. And it was so formative. And I was fascinated by this dude and John Byrne's rendition of him. And like, who is this weird looking dude? And I love it. So I love Nightcrawler. So
he was everybody's favorite, I feel like, when I was in school.
He's great. Man.
I used to like Cyclops the best back when I was a kid.
Well,
that's the greatest irony.
Well, that's because Cyclops is great. All right. I've heard you guys slag on Scott on this show, and here's my take on it. I look at Scott. I'm a little older. So I look at Scott as a whole, the totality of who Scott is. And when you look at his early appearances, and I'm talking the first 15 years of his existence, he was the scrawny nerd who didn't know how to ask the hot redhead out. Yep. And he was suffering under the emotional weight of being the leader, while Daddy Xavier, put all the pressure on him. Xavier would go off on vacations and be like, Scott, you're in charge. Like tell all these other kids what to do, even though Warren, I think, is technically older than him, Beast is definitely older than him, but Scott was the leader. And he
was older than Bobby. Like that's
If anyone on that team had irritable bowel syndrome at age 18, it was Scott Summers. He was so stressed out, and he was skinny. They literally nicknamed him Slim, and he grew into this leadership role. And I'm talking over 20 years. It was this slow progression of him being more confident and everything. And by the time you get to the Phoenix Saga and the angst of losing Jean, and then they have him break out, and he goes off on his own. And the book even followed him. It followed him to Alaska. It didn't follow any other characters. Like when Hank left, he just went to the Avengers. He just joined the Avengers. Like
they had him in Marvel Team Up.
Well, no, I mean they would do stories with him,
right.
But like X-Men, the book wouldn't like check in and do a Hank story.
Right.
When Cyclops left the team, Claremont would write a Cyclops in Alaska story, right?
Yeah.
Bobby and Angel, they would go off form the champions, and they would just have champion adventures. It wasn't like the X-Men were going to check in on him with the champions. So by the time you guys get to Scott, he's this fully formed bro dude who now Jim Lee is drawing like a bodybuilder, right? In the big, version. It's a 90s version of the John Byrne outfit, which the John Byrne outfit I think is beautiful. Although my favorite is the Simonson X Factor look.
I was going to say X Factor is by far the best.
That's by far the best.
That's the white. The white and the blue.
Yeah, I like the white better than the yellow.
That was the first action figure for him was in that version.
He had it was quote unquote Cerebro that went on his hands.
Nope.
It was like the little.
No, the first version of the action figure was
I can't remember what you're talking about.
the white and blue, and you touched the thing on his back, and that was the eyes light up.
Yeah, no, he came with a little accessory that.
Oh, did he really?
Like a little missile thing that it wasn't Cerebro.
No, well, 90s and accessories were.
They called it Cerebro, but
That's funny.
It went over with his two hands.
He's gonna find the nearest mutant by shooting a missile at him. I'm gonna kill you.
I feel like that was like a toy exec. Like, was this given the thing to put on his hands? Like, Cerebro's a word. Yes.
Yeah. So, so my point is, no one had more internal strife and a more internal personal struggle than Cyclops. No one.
Yeah.
And then at a point, he has to fend off the advances of this 150-year-old creeper from Canada. Who's like shoehorning. Who's like he's like, you've got Mariko. Leave my girl alone, kind of a thing. So I do think once they get to the Jim Lee era, I think all that progress stopped. 100%. I agree. So if you're picking up X-Men from the cartoon and from that era in the comics, totally. Cyclops has not grown or changed much in the last 20 years. I agree.
For clarity, that was the second version of him.
Oh, which one are you talking about?
Because that's the one that has because the outfit of the original was the white and blue. This was
I remember the white and blue one. Well, that's on the package.
Yeah, the card has this. That's the card has the science in one.
The white and blue one didn't come with that little guy?
Nope.
Oh, interesting.
Nope.
That's funny.
I'll share these on Instagram. I'm screen capping now.
What
so that's my Cyclops hot take.
So,
you guys get what I'm saying.
What's very possible, though, is either A, Mandela effect, I'm just from a different timeline, which is very possible.
Yep.
Or B, my little brother's the one who had all the Cyclops toys.
Yeah.
He could have just mashed up all the accessories, and they fit, because they probably used the same mold and put the thing on it. But, to your point, the Cyclops, I did definitely, 99.9% of my impression of him is from the cartoon.
Yeah.
And even as a kid, like John said, it wasn't that big of a deal.
God damn it, he's right.
Oh, right. Okay, so he was with the original one.
The 91 release had that. And then the 93 release.
Just threw your phone. You risked breaking a phone over your Cyclops angst.
I've recorded a lot of episodes with Rob.
I just remember, when we got, my brother wanted the Cyclops action figure, and I was like, what's that thing that goes on his hands? And we're reading the back package, comes with Cerebro, and we're like, that's not Cerebro. It was one of the few conversations I remember having that young age with my brother. That's not Cerebro. What is that?
Oh, accessories.
But yeah, even as a kid watching the show, because we waited week to week or sometimes months for episodes, it didn't seem that bad. Now we're watching them in batches and stuff, and having them all smushed together, it's does he stop yelling at any point?
No,
totally.
He yells so much in the show.
Totally, and that is how they treat him on the show. He's a stereotype at that point, and in the movies too. They did him dirty in the movies, right?
I agree with that.
They did him dirty. So that's why I love Cyclops, and I think some I know a couple of older fans from the shop and stuff who feel kind of the same way of as a whole. He's kind of the Nightwing of that universe a little bit, where he started out as this scrawny little tiny one thing with a big daddy presence and had to mentor and figure out his way in the world. Except when he became an adult, Nightwing became this awesome, robust, outgoing individual. And Cyclops is the opposite. Cyclops is when that goes badly.
Yeah.
Cyclops is when you've got all these daddy issues and all this stress and parental stuff and you don't handle it well. Yeah. So I think that's my take on why people say they don't dig Cyclops is because they're not seeing that. Because if you read the early stuff and even up through the early Claremont stuff, he's unsure of himself and they're still calling him Slim and he's getting picked on and he just wants to please Daddy Xavier. That's all he wants.
Then they gave that storyline to MCU Captain America.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Anyway, today we're talking about Nightcrawler.
That's my spot in this. That's my spot in the script.
Let's talk Nightcrawler. I love it. No, Nightcrawler's I'll talk Nightcrawler.
Cyclops is waiting for me as our weekly. I'm trying to get back on track.
That was the longest pause before rigmarole ever. I love it.
I got Nightcrawler talk too.
Cyclops is waiting for me as our weekly podcast series. We're going back and watching every single episode of the original 1992 X-Men, the animated series in the original intended script order, building up to the release of X-Men 97, coming to Disney Plus in late 2023. I think we found out by now.
Did they put a date on it yet?
Not yet.
I think it's fall.
Just late.
Yeah, late.
Real quick, on Disney Plus, that pause screen artwork, the background art.
The one that has Cable in it?
It's terrible.
It's not good.
It's Disney, terrible. You have amazing artists on hand. Whoever drew that, terrible. Because it doesn't look, it's not a still or it's cutouts from the show. It's someone drew that. Someone decided that this would be a good background. It's insultingly bad.
That's a lot of like X-Men the animated series when they reissue for like DVD or anything. Like it feels like they always recreate something. It's always just different.
Yeah, it's like they're not trying to recreate it well.
No, it was like probably promo art from like what actually would have been in a comic that got repurposed.
Yeah, well, the old DVD covers, weren't they like?
I have them upstairs. And I'll pull them down. I don't
they were using comic artists at the time to do the covers, and they looked really dope. You know, but that I noticed it today when I was watching this. I was like, it is some of the absolute doggest. And if anyone's hearing that's responsible for that, here's this. I'm here to say, reach out, Joe and Joe Pod. Let me know. It's terrible. It's a terrible it's like you're trying to capture the spirit, but you're doing it poorly. Like capture the spirit by doing those versions in a well rendered way with knowledge of both anatomy and shadow. That's what I would recommend.
Some quick reminders: we are currently not sponsored or affiliated with Disney Plus in any way, shape, or form. Shocking, I know.
If it wasn't apparent.
Currently, that's the caveat here.
And we are a recap show of a series that came out starting over 30 years ago. There will be spoilers. If you don't want it spoiled for you, pause the podcast, watch the episode, and then come back. God, we talked for how long before we even got to the show?
This is going to be the longest episode of your podcast. Either that or you're just going to edit everything out. Anyway, hey guys, welcome. Joe's on the show.
Nightcrawler. But what we will do is avoid mentioning anything from future episodes, but the comics are fucking fair game at this point.
Oh, is that me?
Yeah, you too.
Don't forget to follow us on social media at Cyclops IWFM Pod on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook. Of course, make sure to follow us on your favorite podcast services. And finally, we record these episodes in batches right now. So if we're reacting to any news about the upcoming series, we may be a few weeks behind. I don't think there's anything really new from last time. So
I don't know. I got the Mystique figure in the mail that should arrive by the time that this episode is live.
Legends?
Nice.
The VHS set.
Oh, cool.
Yep. I can't do the legends on top of it. It's just there's too many.
lot.
On to the show. Today we're going to be talking about season 4, episode 8, titled Nightcrawler. It aired on May 13th of 1995. Currently sits at a 8.0 star rating on IMDb.
I was telling John before we were recording, this one I've seen the most after like not being a kid because for whatever reason, maybe it's because I like Nightcrawler so much. Like this is like my comfort episode. I just put it on while I'm winding down, or cleaning the house or something like that because it's just kind of cool to see him on there. He also kind of has like an ASMR voice.
You have the weirdest ASMR interest literally ever.
Okay, I'm not going to make it. Anyway, I like it because it's a great one and done episode.
Yes,
it's just while there's one of the things I love about, I think probably we all do is love about the X-Men show is how hard into the continuity they dove. Between this and Spider-Man at the time, continuity. And ripped from the headlines. And then every once in a while you get an episode like this that's just. It references it by saying like, oh man, we've been having a rough time lately. Let's go on a vacation.
Yep. And this one,
it's just totally enjoyable on itself. Introduces a new fun character.
Yeah, this one also specifically loosely based off of Uncanny X-Men 154 and 155. Joe, I'm sure you own those issues.
I do.
Yep.
I do.
Rod, those came out a while ago.
So Dave Cockrum created Nightcrawler. So I don't know, Rod, how much you know about this, John. You probably know a lot about this.
Definitely knows all of it.
So Dave Cockrum he passed a few years ago, a brilliant comic book artist. Not very flashy, but probably one of the best costume designers in the business that ever graced the page. And I mean this. His costumes were very simple, but they represented the characters. He had a long, healthy run on Legion of Superheroes. And I'm a huge Legion of Superhero fan. Independent of all this stuff, Nightcrawler was originally supposed to be a member of the Legion of Superheroes. This is over at DC Comics, which is a futuristic space team.
I was actually going to just tell you to pause for a second and ask Rod if he knew which company published Legion of Superheroes.
Valiant.
Rod, do you know what Valiant was?
I kind of, only because I saw characters that look like X-Men characters. And I think I later found out that Jim Lee drew them or something.
That was not Valiant.
Was it not Valiant?
Nope.
Jim Lee didn't work at Valiant.
Okay,
no.
I don't know.
No,
I get all confused.
No, that's okay. So when Cockrum was working on Legion, Cockrum was a longtime Legion guy. He designed he did a complete redesign of the Legion costumes, and during that time he created Nightcrawler and was going to use them, but then he pulled it back and he didn't introduce Nightcrawler into Legion.
This is interesting because like in another timeline, Nightcrawler could also have been ruined by Warner Brothers.
Well, that's very true.
To be fair, Fox didn't do a great job with him.
Yeah,
he was like one of the better parts of those X-Men movies.
He was
to their credit.
Nightcrawler was fun.
Better part of a bad movie is still not good.
You don't like X2?
All of the X-Men movies are garbage. They're like your racist grandpa.
I wouldn't go that far.
No.
Like they're
No.
we have them.
no.
We have them to thank for like what we have now.
No,
But they were
I
so
do
bad.
I do like X2. I don't
disagree.
like the later version of Nightcrawler.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The
younger
Cody
one?
Smith McPhee one.
That
Yeah,
one.
yes,
Yeah.
for that one.
Yeah.
No, but like when his entrance in the original series is like that was one of the bright spots.
Oh, it was great. Yeah, it was great. And Alan Cummings' performance I thought was good. I didn't love the tattoo thing, but at least they gave a reason for it. Like he was
like
so
penance.
conflicted. Yeah. I thought X1, X2 were solid. I liked the reboot of First Class. I thought was really great. I thought Days of Future was great.
Days of Future, I could go either way.
Yeah, and then I mean the rest are hot garbage, but I wouldn't call racist grandpa.
My favorite was Days of Future Past because he erased everything bore it.
Well, there's a whole lot that doesn't make any sense there because literally water is the only thing that can kill Wolverine. So what do? Do they drown him and then pretend that didn't kill him?
Yeah.
Because that is literally the only thing that can kill him.
I think, just for context though, like I didn't like that they didn't utilize like the cool costumes.
Oh, 100%.
And then also there's a huge wait for Storm because she was my favorite character.
Yeah.
And they possibly cast the worst person. They could have cast Mio and it would have been better than Halle Berry.
You've got the hair. You've got the hair for it.
Even then, when I was a kid with a buzzed head,
Yeah,
it would have been better than Halle Berry.
I
in that
agree.
role.
There's a lot that they were wrong. They were ashamed of the costumes, even in the later editions, which were terrible. Like Phoenix is terrible. They were still ashamed of their costumes, and they could say that they're trying to keep continuity. Yeah, but it's 20 years later, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like just do us the solid.
Oh, yeah.
Give us. I mean, anyway. But Nightcrawler, I thought it was solid. Alan Cummings version.
Oh, yeah,
I
he was
thought
great.
was great. Yeah.
But you're right about the younger one.
Yeah,
Yeah. Just kind of thrown. Yeah.
So the episode starts.
Oh wait, I didn't get finished talking about Dave Cockrum.
Go for it.
So Dave Cockrum was the artist on Giant Size #1, which introduced all these guys. So he pulled that design in there. I think he did about 12 issues of the early X-Men, and then Byrne came in, and then Cockrum revisited it. So Nightcrawler was always Cockrum's baby. Nightcrawler was probably the most associated character with Dave Cockrum. Like that was his favorite thing. He did the Nightcrawler miniseries, which at the time they hadn't really. I
That
think
was the swashbuckling one, right?
Yeah, I think the Nightcrawler miniseries, that probably Wolverine was the first X-Men miniseries they did, but then Nightcrawler was like the second. I feel like Wolverine came first, but it was one of the very early ones. Like X-Men weren't like getting miniseries left and right like it is today. It was, you just had X-Men, you had Uncanny X-Men, that was it. And then right around that time, that 150-ish era. So what? Nightcrawler was after the Wolverine, the Frank Miller Wolverine one. He did this 4-issue Wolverine Nightcrawler miniseries that just dug heavy in the swashbuckling and the bamps and the little. And Nightcrawler's great. Nightcrawler's just a charming, delightful, bright, fun spirit.
Yeah.
If you've never read his Excalibur, like the Excalibur series, it's basically Nightcrawler's book. It's awesome.
Okay. Episode. I'm looking at the room and I'm checking for confirmation.
The Hulk is the world breaker. I am the pod breaker.
So it starts out with some scary music. It's nighttime. There's like fog and stuff like that. And we see kind of like an Eastern European village. And I can't pronounce the name of that.
I think later on they said Neuherzl.
I never heard the name of it.
They showed it on the screen.
But is it on the screen?
But later, we'll talk about that. A couple of people that we're not sure where they came from in the ski lodge.
Yeah.
They pronounce it but they're also foreign to this country. So
they were like Australian accents.
So they may be pronouncing it wrong too. But I think they said something like Neuherzl or
let's go with
it's the Alps.
Yeah.
it's like on the border of Germany.
Yeah. There's also a blood moon in the sky.
Blood moon,
which we just all saw recently in real life, the night of the
thing.
God of War Ragnarok.
Oh, okay.
The only thing that happened
they had
that
to
night.
plan that, right?
They definitely did.
Did.
And you hear these people who are, the way I phrase it, European as fuck, talking about a fiend, and that fiend has claws and fangs.
It's this whole opening is Universal Horrors. It's a Frank Whale movie.
Oh,
That's
100%.
what's great. Yeah, and I love it.
Yeah, angry mob with
torches. Yep, and that's true to his origin. That's how Xavier found him, and
right.
Yeah.
So you see a quick teleportation. Obviously, we know it's Nightcrawler. They're not shy about it being Nightcrawler. The episode's literally fucking called Nightcrawler, and he starts crawling down the walls. And Joe, maybe you could clarify this because in the era that I've read him, I've never seen wall crawling as a thing for him. I've seen he uses like the tail to grab onto stuff and things like that. But
Nightcrawler's got a couple power. Good call them powers. He's also technically not a mutant, but Nightcrawler's got a couple things that the artists and writers have forgotten about him. One, he blends in the darkness, and it's primarily due to the indigo fur that he has. He's not blue. Doesn't have blue flesh. He's blue fur.
Oh yeah.
Now his skin's probably blue too, imagine.
That's something the movies got wrong too.
Yeah. He's actually a really, really thin, very smooth, velvety like fur, and then that is supposed to give him the ability to just completely blend into shadow, ignoring the giant red vest that he's wearing. Let's all ignore that. And
so real quick, that goes along with one of the things that we've seen since episode 1 is people don't look up because they've literally walked by giant sentinels on the sides of buildings and just not notice them. So let's just assume most people don't look up, and that's why they don't see him with the red.
With the red, yeah. And if you're listening and for some reason not familiar with his look, he only has 2 fingers and he has thumbs, but they're more like they're not traditionally shaped like human thumbs. They're more.
It's like all 3 fingers are the same style.
So if you put your hands in a Vulcan-like salute and kind of bend them together, that's your Nightcrawler hand. And his thumb kind of is a little more centered in the middle of his hand to kind of give him a grab. The idea is that he is like grasping like an animal.
Yeah.
But one of the early things they had him do is that they said that his fingers were so supple and more animal-like that he could like pinch the wall and kind of crawl the wall. So he's not doing any kind of electrostatic, sticky like Spider-Man sort of does.
Right.
Although later they would, like in the movie, they gave him those little hirsute talons, which is a neat idea and probably more realistic to how Peter does it. But his is more like a staticky cling. That's always been. Nightcrawler is literally more like gripping. So if you threw him on a really slick surface, he wouldn't be able to stay. He wouldn't. He would definitely fall. Stone Monastery, he would have no problem kind of grasping it, like little just like an animal, like a gecko kind of a thing.
Killing it at the rock climbing gym.
Yeah, nailing him.
Yeah.
So as he's gripping to a wall, one of the women actually does look up. She crosses that 45-degree upward angle.
The first one to defect the church.
It's the old European lady from the Frank Gale movies, Una, what's her name? That would just like always be like, look, there's the monster. And she was in all those movies. Yep. You guys know what I'm talking about.
She specifically calls this one the demon.
The demon. Paul Stanley comes out. Yeah.
Yep. And then at that point, somebody pulls out like a laser pistol. Originally, that was supposed to be a crossbow.
Oh, really?
I made a note about that because we joke about like how, I guess like because of standards and practices, they can't use like guns in the show.
Yeah, standard guns, but that was one of those things to make it slightly less realistic because this episode does get a little heavier from a realistic world perspective in a lot of ways. So that was one of the ways of like cartoonifying it up a little.
So it's like these villagers they're still by candlelight, literally.
Yep.
And pitchforks.
Torches and
laser guns.
Funded by Cobra. They're all funded by Cobra. That's the point.
So when Nightcrawler gets shot at, this is where not only is he like going across the sides of buildings, he's literally running sideways. Like
that's Nightcrawler's. Yeah, he's got that down.
My note here says like he's like parkouring around town, but can he teleport?
Yeah,
he can. But in early days, actually teleporting took a lot out of him. When he teleported, and they've that's one of those things that in comics they've dropped a lot. People get characters get bigger and more powerful, and they forget all these little foibles that the early curators added to make it harder for them to just do anything.
Right.
And one of the things was it was actually a bit of a strain for him to teleport. And if he teleported with another person, it was a big strain.
Yeah.
And the other person would vomit, or they would, or they were like, it was really hard on them. But it was very hard on Nightcrawler to teleport with 2 people. So if they don't have him doing a lot, that comes from those early adventures where he would do it. But if he did it too much, oh my gosh, I'm wiped out.
Yeah, well, I guess I just think through my lens of like being my 40s. It's just like, man, running seems so difficult.
Oh, stop it. Stop it. I was watching that Ms. Marvel show. Tangent. Here we go, John. Tangent. Watching that Ms. Marvel show, and she's throwing the steps and running all over. I'm like, they got to fix that. She's just gonna run everywhere. You're exhausted after 2 blocks. Like
she's a teenager.
Yeah, I know, but they gotta work on that because I like that show, but like they gotta figure out a better way to use those powers to transport.
Have a weird set of circumstances. I ended up getting to meet him on and the whole cast of Ms. Marvel one night.
Great.
Basically, it was the Asian Oscars. I don't even know how to explain how I ended up there, but that girl has a lot of energy, so I buy it.
Okay, all right, I'll buy it then. I loved it. I love the show, but just that scene where she's running off and she's making the stepping stones. I'm like, you turn the corner, you're going to be out of breath.
Yeah, so I watched that and I was like, good for her while she's young.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
We are 6 lines into my notes.
Hope you guys like Nightcrawler.
Hey guys, submit this to the Potty Awards over here.
Streamy Awards.
Streamies. The streamies.
Oh, I wish I was kidding. But at one point, he does kind of get cornered. And to your point, he does teleport
Yes.
away at that point,
Yeah.
Rob.
We had to recharge.
And then he gives a line where he says, "The heartless fools, they know not what they do." And I don't know about the heartless fools part, but "they know not what they do" is a line from something. And I just didn't look it up.
From the Bible.
Yeah.
Is the Bible?
Yeah, so Jesus says that. I believe he's talking to God.
Gethsemane.
Or someone's, and he's like,
I think it's like the night before he gets crucified.
yeah. He's like, yeah, they know not what they do. Like,
But
they
did
don't
he-
realize the damage they're doing
It's a
to
paraphrase.
But yeah,
Yeah,
he didn't say heartless fools. Jesus
say
didn't
heartless
say that part. Okay.
Barabbas, you heartless fool. No. But yeah, they know not what they do is a biblical.
Oh, well,
reference.
that all makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm happy I don't have that in my search history.
Yeah.
From that, we
Well, I
jump.
just get that from the Mel Gibson podcast that I listen to.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
I haven't heard that name in a while.
From there, we
We're
actually
not here to talk about Passion
Nope.
of the Christ.
Nope.
Okay.
From there, we actually jump over to a ski resort, and in that ski resort, you have Gambit and Rogue who are hanging on a couch and
Oh, the best.
getting cozy.
The best. I can smell the hairspray.
Oh, yeah.
Just coming off that scene as soon as they're both on there. It's just so great.
So when I was doing some research, and then of course I do the research literally right before people show up to record, so I don't have time to verify any of this. Apparently, there are 3 cameos in that scene.
Really?
One is supposedly Mary Jane with a coffee mug that has a spider web on the side of it.
Really?
And then there's a couple by a window who are Stephen Strange and Clea.
I
Really?
did not catch that at all.
I didn't catch that at all either.
IMDb and one of those websites is lying, which is entirely possible.
While you guys are talking, I will be pulling up Disney Plus on my phone.
Yeah. That's great. And I love it. Like, that's why not do that? I applaud that 100% for the animators. Why not do more of that? I love when they do it in comics. They'll have a big crowd scene and there'll be a bunch of people pointing in the sky, and in the background will be Clark Kent and Lois Lane.
Right.
Like, they always show up in big crowd scenes. It's great.
One of my favorite ongoing jokes that's currently happening in DC is the guys from iFanboy often get killed in various DC comics. whether it's the name or their absolute likeness, they've been killed at least 15 times in DC comics over the years.
You can tell in a lot of older books where the art style is a little more, I don't mean this in a get off my lawn kind of way, but a little more realistic. A lot of the older artists just, like Neil Adams' school. Did you find it?
How did I not see this?
When there's a crowd scene, and if there'll
I'm
be
going to take a screenshot. I rewound too far.
in some crowd scenes, you'll see these generic faces, and then there'll be a really great rendered face, and that's their roommate or buddy.
Jesus Christ.
So Mary Jane will pop up right about here, and then Clea and Doctor Strange are right back here. So Mary Jane will be right there, and then.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And it's crystal clear then. That's not even questionable.
Yeah,
I'm going to take a screen cap so we can post it.
Now, you're telling me Doctor Strange's mangled hands can hold ski poles, but he can't operate on anybody?
He's not skiing.
Oh, that's true. He's just drinking. Doctor Strange is doing what I do when I go skiing. I just stay in the lodge and I drink.
So at that point, Gambit is trying to get cuddly with Rogue, but he's also instantly annoyed that they're with Wolverine, who's essentially a chaperone for them.
Wolverine's sitting there in the corner like a voyeur, going like, "Slower, bub."
I was wondering if Xavier sent him because they were like, just make sure they don't do the thing because
Well, I'll say this though. Actually, I think they're there to help Wolverine because Wolverine seems now. So I didn't watch the previous episode. Is he just bummed out because of Dark Phoenix stuff, or was there did something happen? Did something go on in previous episodes that?
So not the previous episode. The one prior to that though is Morph coming back,
Right.
and then proceeding to leave the team because he's not ready.
Right, and Wolverine felt a ton of guilt about that because I left Morph behind.
No, well maybe he shouldn't leave Morph behind.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I think I looked at it as that. It's more of a we need to get Groucho out of the house.
I think that's a great thought because the last time we recorded that episode was 5 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I forgot that was the episode until you questioned what happened prior. So that's
because he's just so down. And this whole episode it's called Nightcrawler, but it's really about Wolverine.
It's absolutely a Wolverine
totally
episode.
a Wolverine episode.
Yeah, and there's some comment where Gambit's trying to make a dig, and Wolverine's like, I don't even know the meaning of the word happy.
Yeah.
So in the most get off your lawn kind of scenario, they hear a couple, and this is the couple in an Australian accent talking about the town that we can't pronounce with the demon, and Wolverine creepily goes over. He's like, "Did you say demon?"
Yeah. That is Super Creepers. Because imagine you're sitting there with your partner,
and
just having a
that
normal
guy
conversation,
comes over.
and the hairiest.
There's that voyeur thing you're talking about, though.
Yeah.
He's like, say demon again.
Say demon. Say demon one more time. How great would it be if the voice of that Australian couple was like a young Hugh Jackman doing VO roles, trying to make some early Hollywood money?
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Rod, look it up.
No, it's not. But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You know. But also that's a great Easter egg because Wolverine, famous Australian from Pride of the X-Men,
which we still have not watched.
You guys haven't done yet.
I've watched.
Okay.
I've not.
Yeah. Well, I
own the VHS.
I love Pride of the X-Men. It's great, but he's totally Australian.
I was telling how bad it was.
Oh, I love it. I thought it was great. It was super true to those Claremont Burns.
So now we have two guests who've said it's good.
Yeah, you're wrong.
Joe and Matt have both said it's good.
Yeah, it's really good.
I guess it depends. I don't think you would like it as a standalone, but if you like the comic accuracy, everybody said it's comic accurate.
Yeah, in the animation is done by Sunbow, who did G.I. Joe.
It's not bad.
The animation is gorgeous. Like it's really solid 80s animation.
But it wasn't
come back to
the
it.
Maturity that like this show
No.
is, it was
No.
It was the other 80s after school specials.
Yeah.
It was like Kitty Pryde learned to love herself at the end,
Yeah, totally. Oh, totally. Yeah.
Jump back, Gambit is trying to get Rogue to just like, let's just go to Monte Carlo instead. Yeah. And it's like, that's like one of those like stereotypical like, oh, that's the vacation where you go to fuck. And Wolverine's like, I found something. Let's go have fun.
Can I still watch in Monte Carlo, bub?
Actually, my note here was like, Gambit's still flirting with Rogue. Wolverine cock blocks. They go on a mission.
He wasn't gonna get any. Let's be real.
Logan is Canadian for cuckold.
I
forgot to ask. Language on the show?
Oh no.
I said fuck really early in the episode.
Good. My show is actually I keep mine clean.
Oh.
So I just want.
So you're letting it out here.
Oh, I do totally. Yeah. Every pod I guest on, I swear like a fucking cockleberry.
Yep.
And then if they ever listen to my show, I'm always like, "Gosh darn it, those cobras and those lasers."
Just in case the kids want to listen to it.
No,
we are not that show.
No.
Was it the first or second episode? Both of us were like, between how much both of us swear you drink, and I think everyone's boning.
Oh yeah,
it's no possible way we can make this a family friendly.
Oh, completely. And I prefer it that way.
The one time the characters were actually set up for boning was the one time Rod's like, I didn't get that joke.
I didn't catch that. They just went to the hotel, right? Anyway, I don't know what the reference was. But.
I'll explain
Cyclops is waiting for me.
Yeah.
I have to leave, Logan.
So as their way of getting from the ski resort to this village, they decide to ski. Gambit can't ski, ends up like spinning around backwards.
Pulls a Sonny Bono.
Yes.
4 years before Sonny Bono dies.
Well, that was something else.
This predated the Sonny Bono.
Yeah, this was like still when Looney Tunes was pulling that shit.
Yes.
I think until I was like in high school or something, one of my first ski trips, like the ski joke was funny.
Totally.
Until you're actually there, like this is terrifying. What do people joke about this?
I hate skiing.
If you can't ski, like that's not one of the things you drag a friend along.
It is it is frightening. You're going down that hill so fast, and I'm like, to what point? So I can go back up and do it again?
Yeah. No.
I don't get it. I don't like it. I'm not a fan of it. And yes, or 3 years after this episode, Sonny Bono would die. And then shortly after that, Liam Neeson's wife dies from the same thing. That's how she died.
I remember that one.
Yeah.
I remember that.
There's a rash of tree murders.
Well, it's Earth fighting back.
Yeah, right? It was the happening. It was the happening. Yeah. It was the prequel to the happening was the Sonny Bono murders.
It was all in revenge that when Gambit hits the tree, his powers activate and makes the tree explode. And then...
Which shouldn't have been able to happen.
Please elaborate.
Gambit's powers do not work on organic material. A tree is alive.
What if it was a dead tree?
Okay, that's the only explanation. Except
it was frozen dead
maybe,
tree.
Yeah, that would be the only explanation.
I'm gonna go with that.
And that's how it works on like cards and stuff. Like they're not living, that's his limitation.
Because he can't touch a person and blow them up.
Right, exactly, and that's
okay, boys. Season showrunners, or whatever you're listening, that adaptation from one of your parody characters.
So I would make the argument. It probably would have had a hard time charging that whole tree with the kinetic energy because it was a living thing.
But also, he probably would have had a concussion from hitting the tree.
Oh yeah, and that also might explain it too. So just like Scott, the reason he can't control his optic blast is he got hit in the head.
Yeah,
maybe once Gambit got that terrible concussion, his powers went haywire.
Not to jump too far ahead. But at one point, they're referencing Gambit being hurt from this whacking into the tree. Yeah. And they purposely didn't say concussion. That was one of the other things that got cut from standards and practices.
Oh, really?
Yes. So they got away with like so much of the church and spirituality references, but like the crossbow, the word concussion are specifically mentioned as being.
And did they say why concussion is bad?
Is standards of practice the same thing as the ratings board, where it's like random parents that people don't know about?
No, standards and practices are the ones who work for the actual studio.
So it's like the corporate lawyers.
And
Lawyers. Yeah.
They basically say, please don't do this because the ratings board or whoever may freak out about it.
So they're thinking of the ratings board that I'm thinking of, though, that are like the anonymous parents, right?
Yeah, I think I know why they would have cut that, though, because that's actual trauma happening. That's something a kid could look up and understand real trauma happening versus, oh, he got blasted. What does that mean?
So, exact quote from Eric Lewald's previously on X-Men, The Making of an Animated Series. And this is actually one of the only episodes that has a full mini chapter dedicated to it.
Wow.
She preferred we not say Gambit had a concussion, which implies too much violence, even though it came from a tree.
Yeah.
It's just too real world. I mean,
Too real.
Fair enough.
I guess. Yeah.
But,
Because then, you see a kid
Yeah.
wanting to emulate a passed out Cajun. Hey, Mom, look at me. I'm Gambit. Thunk.
just runs face forward into a tree.
Sonny Bono's just a huge X-Men fan.
Yeah.
I'm halfway down the first page.
He was halfway down the hill.
Well, what helps them get the rest of the way down the hill is the explosion of the
ambulance.
tree.
Yeah.
Avalanche.
An avalanche, yes.
Yeah. But not the
Not the avalanche, right.
He wasn't ever called the Avalanche.
No, I'm saying
Well,
the
avalanche.
and avalanche instead of the guy.
Have we ever had a team up between Avalanche, the X-Men, Freedom Force, Brotherhood of Evil Mutant, and Avalanche, the WWE wrestler?
No.
That would be amazing. And throw in Richter, who can make earthquakes. And I feel like you have a just like a 3-way triple tag team that would just.
Have you checked Florida? They seem to get close.
If you do check Florida, look for my dad. No, I'm just kidding. My dad's at home.
Rogue tries to save the day, grab them. They still get caught in the avalanche, uncovering themselves from the snow. Wolverine chops his way out with his claws.
Yeah, he does.
Instead of just digging, he's stabbing his way through.
Gotta do
I guess it's ice.
Got to do it. Stab. Wolverine's like Homer with a pistol.
Turn the TV off by shooting it.
And he's Mr. Plow.
And he's Mr. Plow. There's a lot of similarities here.
If our episode titles were not just the episode title itself, the ultimate tangent episode.
We should go back afterwards and like repost them under alternate titles.
You're going to get like 17 clips to use for like Instagram reels off of this. I just want to point this out. I'm going to run out of like our paid thing that we make the visualizer from.
This is going to be 4 times as long as the episode.
It already is.
Yeah,
it's already 3 times longer.
Yep. Oh, but they see the town.
It's a giant size X-Men.
They see the town. From there, Rogue wakes up in this monastery.
We do real quick. And I don't mean this isn't a tangent. They were cross country skiing to go find this demon.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's just point that out. They weren't just skiing for fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no car. There's no livery. There's no horse they could have borrowed.
Nope.
They just decided to ski across the city to go find this demon.
Wolverine creeped on that couple and decided this was the best direct route.
I will point out their reasoning for skiing too was funny because Rogue even says, "Why don't I just fly us there?"
Right.
And then Wolverine's like, "And miss all this fun," and points at Gambit almost dying.
Which is pretty funny. Yes.
And so their whole reason for skiing is to watch Gambit suffer skiing.
Yes.
That was
That was pretty entertaining.
But they got there.
Yeah, they
did get there.
They got there.
Now, granted, like 2/3 of them don't remember how they got there, but
Yeah, that's true.
The not concussed guy.
Funny though,
'cause
he's just not even in this whole episode. Then it's just it's like
well, even Rogue, she passed out, right?
Yeah, she does pass out from there.
it's like which was it X2 when they kidnap Xavier early on so they don't have to deal with someone having you know what I mean, like someone having his level of power.
We can't pay Patrick.
Yeah, and he's just not in the movie because he's just out of it the whole movie. Yeah, sure, that's what they did at Gambit.
So Rogue wakes up and there are monks that are nearby.
Of course there are.
Yep.
Making pretzels and wine.
One of the other things that the censors cut was the monastery could not have a winery within it.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are nailing all the things that got cut from the episode.
It's almost like I've watched way too many cartoons in my day.
Yeah.
I like too that the monks say that their ministry is to minister to ski accident victims. I was like,
No, they say that?
yes, that sounds like
Yeah, they actually say a part of why they're there, in addition to like studying the Lord and stuff like that is to help people who've gotten hurt in ski accidents.
That's a great service, but also feels like there's a core problem that's not being addressed. Like the ski resort.
These murderous trees.
And also the avalanches that just tore her sleeves off.
That's awesome. That was amazing.
Or she just flexed so hard.
No, it tore.
It was like, you know what it was? The trees were transplanted from Evil Dead movies. That's what it was. They knock out the boyfriend and they go after the girl.
And then what stood out to me at that point is as they realized that Rogue is okay and regaining consciousness and stuff like that, they actually said, praise be to God. And like growing up in Catholic school and stuff like that, it stood out to me because I don't remember, aside from your like Bible and Old Testament related shows, specials, etc. I don't remember that ever being said in a cartoon up until this point.
You're totally right, Davey.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Unlocked memory.
So, but that's you're right, and it is shocking how like, and it makes sense because it's Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler is famously Catholic. I prefer my Nightcrawler when he kind of keeps his religion. He's just true to his religion in his heart. I'm for the record, I was raised Lutheran, not Catholic. But years later, they would make him an actual priest.
Yep,
and it was interesting, but then it was a little too much for me.
Yeah,
like it was a little too.
Hit you over the head.
Yeah, it was a little too on the nose. I really preferred it when it was just an aspect that would occasionally come out to help someone get through a situation, not like all of a sudden he's there ministering to everybody and I'm like, okay, peel it back. But in this case, so he's specifically Catholic, but Catholic, there was not Catholic monks, like, right? Like that's not a Catholic.
It could be Jesuit.
Maybe.
That's because like I went to a Notre Dame high school and we had the Jesuit brothers.
Oh, okay.
So
sure.
I think that might be kind of the closest.
Still God.
And I think like they didn't want to specify like which group within the Catholic Church too. Yeah. Or sorry, which group within Christianity.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
They were even kind of vague about that. They didn't really specify Christianity a whole lot. They just tied the whole language.
It's shocking. I think it's just shocking enough that they go straight, that they get the God stuff in, and not just in a passing reference, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Like it's earlier Wolverine's God don't like me, you know, and then it's just and they're in a church and the Bible page and all this stuff that happens. Like it's God.
There had been some sort of argument with the story writers of the network of like this is core to his character, so it's important that this stays in.
Had to be.
That's a big part of that chapter where it was like every writer and Eric and they were all about it. And the executives were in support of it. They knew that the local affiliates and the advertisers would be the ones who might be nervous about it. But the two key people over at Fox who would go to bat for them, the ones who helped get the show, Margaret Lacher.
Oh, yeah.
And I forgot the other person's name off the top of my head. But they actually went to bat of like, no, let's do this.
Yeah, because it's character driven. You can always, you just stand behind that. You know, we're doing it for character and it works.
Yeah, and Eric said as far as he and the other people that were a part of this process, this is the first time they remembered it being a part of something that was kids pop culture. Where are we? Oh yeah, halfway down the page. At that point, somebody is snooping and we find out that that's Brother Reinhardt.
Creeping.
Yeah, just totally creeping. He is not a fan of Brother Michael, the one who's taking care of Rogue. He says, isn't this a terrible time with everything that's going on?
I do have to say, I think this is great. And you have to do it in a show episode like this, where they're all monks, they're all wearing the same robes. Everyone has a distinct facial hair look.
Yes.
Yeah. Like the one guy's bald with the beard, the other guy has big shaggy hair. You really have to go for the facial / head hair to distinguish anyone from anyone else.
And then you give the woman the robe. And this is where I was like, what is Rod's opinion going to be on this? Because the exact phrasing was, we don't want to make the natives restless.
Yeah, it was because was it Reinhardt or one of the monks was like,
I think it was Brother Michael.
The nice guy. The nice guy said
speaking of, now that you're okay, can you dress more modestly?
Yeah.
And then I think it was Rogan says like, well, wouldn't want to make the natives restless.
It's some Alien 3 level stuff.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. You go from like a bunch of dudes that probably not seen a woman in years. And now there's like one of the most attractive women you've probably ever seen in spandex in presence with her shoulders are showing.
Rumor control. We got a pretty little lady here. Y'all gonna keep it in your robes. Rumor control.
Which it's interesting because like I guess you're in their space, so house
Sure,
rules or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But at the same time, like, can you imagine telling a woman that could like absorb your life force, like put some clothes?
But they don't know that.
And also, let's be clear, it's just her arm. She's wearing a big old ski suit, like.
Yeah, she's not in her. She's not in her tight
spandex.
Yeah,
but
she's in a ski suit.
But she's in skin tight clothing, and there's all these,
I get it. Yeah, but you know what? Hey, listen.
See,
if
Rod and I are different people.
maybe your commitment to God isn't that strong. If just if the sight of someone's bare shoulder, all of a sudden you want to throw everything out the window.
I mean, we actually we joke about that, but like I remember in the '90s, and because John grew up Catholic, I grew up Presbyterian and like non-denominational.
Mm-hmm.
And you had the purity culture was such a huge thing. I don't know if
sure.
you remember any of that? Like
we were a bunch of kids from Connecticut. We did not have that.
Well, how it actually panned out versus what.
Every time I saw a kid talking about his purity ring, I was just like, the only thing we want to do is get some poon. That's it. It's all me and my friends talked about was wanting to get trim, and I'm using those words specifically because it was the '90s in Chicago.
Yeah,
and that is all any of us gave a shit about. And then you got some guys and you were like, I'm wearing my purity ring because you're using it as an excuse because no one likes you. That's why.
It brought like weird attention.
Early incels.
Yeah, that's what it was, man.
It was a little bit of that, and also like you also made like undue focus on something that like so not that it wasn't in your mind because you're a teenager and hormones and stuff, but then you also like in church, like we'd be one of the few places you might not even talk about it in like the general sense. It would just constantly be in sermons and True Love Waits concerts. And
meanwhile, all you're doing in church is sitting there looking at all the other girls in church going like, what's up?
Well, so
like that's all you're doing in church.
But see that was that is like a little interesting commentary of like the time, and then like asking Rogue to cover up and stuff.
Yeah.
At least where I went to church and stuff, the pressure was always on the girls to be modest and not the guys.
Which is
to not
some
be creeps.
Bullshit.
At the time,
it's still to this day.
Yeah,
I'm just saying because I haven't attended church regularly in a couple decades.
Yeah.
Like,
Me too.
But like at that time,
have you watched TV recently, Rod?
But at the time, like it was like at youth group, like if a girl like was showing shoulder, they were like, go back home and put on something more appropriate.
Yeah, it's don't even get me started. It's like my wife wants to lock men in cages.
Yeah,
she's like, it's you're blaming women because men are animals.
Yeah,
I mean, fair.
I mean, we are.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we aren't, but like instead of trying to curb the maniacs, you're like, oh, it's your fault because you showed a little too much knee.
Yeah, but this one was a little bit more fair because they are also wearing robes. So it's like, okay,
yeah, well, it is. You're on their territory.
Yeah.
Totally get it. Totally. But Wolverine didn't wear a robe, did he?
No.
Oh, that's true.
See?
Yeah, no,
but
they
apparently don't apply to Canadians.
But they did point out that because she's the only woman, they actually made a point of saying
that's true.
So,
by the way, we glossed over in all this in-depth detail. She called him hoser early on, and then said, "Why doesn't he love skiing?" I thought that was great. That was all character. That was so solid. I loved it. Called him hoser, and then you should love skiing, basically, because you're Canadian. You hoser.
It's funny because
I think he's too heavy, and he starts to
he would sink.
Yeah.
John actually met the voice of Rogue, and it seems like on par with her energy.
Oh, she, and I've said this on a previous episode. Anybody who I met who was involved in the animated series, if you bought something at the booth, they would basically sign as much stuff as you wanted. She is just sassy and awesome, and it was like, this is how much the autograph is, and this is also how much a selfie is. And I'm like, good for you. Fuck
awesome.
yeah.
Get it. Long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs.
Nope.
That was one of my favorite quotes from the early episodes.
The best, man.
So at that point also, as the Native Restless comment is made, we actually see Nightcrawler up in the rafters. Right. They start asking, what is this place? And the monks give like quick little mention, this has been around. It got some damage during the war. So that means this thing has had massive damage for 50 years, and they've just decided to not fix it.
Yeah, and they probably don't have a whole.
They don't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a monastery, but it's a castle. Like
it's a castle, but they're also helping all these ski victims without payment.
Yeah,
right.
And they're not allowed to make wine.
And they're just giving robes away left and right.
Yeah, they can't make wine to sell because of standards and practices. But they mentioned the war, and that stood out for me because in the show, like obviously we know about Magneto's history and stuff like that, but they've never actually acknowledged the war.
Was this before or after that Old Soldiers episode was showing Wolverine in World War II?
This is before that.
Before
episode.
it, okay.
Yep. But this is the most direct reference to World War II.
An undisclosed war in the show.
Yeah. Turns out there's just the Falklands.
Well, even Magneto, they just kind of dance around it. They're like, there's a thing that happened.
Yeah.
But we all know what it was.
Yeah. It's like how Batman 66.
Oh, yeah.
There's like one episode that ever references his parents just as being past. Like, that's it. And like, versus every other instance of Batman you've ever seen, they're like, did you know his parents died in an alley? His parents died in an alley. They're 66, they're like, oh, my parents are dead.
To be totally fair, it's not my parents died in an alley. It's I'm going to relive that trauma vividly with like multiple like angles of mom being shot in the pearl shopping.
Yeah. And on 66 is, oh, parents are gone.
That's probably my favorite Batman movie is Lego Batman.
Oh,
because they do the best job of addressing that. They're like, that thing happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so since the conversation with Joe has been going and it's fantastic, we want to extend this out to 2 episodes. We didn't tell Joe we're necessarily doing it, so we're just doing this outro without him. Rod, any thoughts on Nightcrawler? And I don't even know where we're editing this.
Yeah, I have no idea where we're at right now, but you guys do. So thanks for listening. Welcome to Nightcrawler month. I'm half joking about that. We're not sure how long this is going to go.
It's at least half a month.
But Joe's great. This is awesome. Stay tuned for next week for the next part of the saga.